Hello everyone, and welcome to the Windmill. Now this video is the first of a series I'm currently calling Maker Breakdowns. The premise of this series is to take an in-depth look at a Mario Maker 2 course I've made and analyze it, or break it down if you will, hence the series name. The general flow of the video will be as follows. We start with the intro, where I obviously introduce the stage, briefly discuss why I chose the stage in question, and depending on the nature of the stage, I may mention the aspects of level design I'm using the stage to demonstrate. After the intro, we begin the breakdown itself. In this portion of the video, I'll be showing you the various sections of the course and describing important details such as mechanics, design points, flaws, and my own personal thought process for how I designed each section. After discussing each section, we come to the conclusion where I do a brief but honest review of the course, essentially talking about how much I liked it, my favorite parts, and whether or not it's a good stage in my opinion, and of course the overall presentation. After that, I may briefly talk about the video and its production before I finally end it, but in the interest of time I intend to keep this to a minimum. And that's it. Most of the videos will follow this basic format, though I'll be tweaking the finer details to fit whatever point I'm trying to demonstrate. Alright, with that out of the way, let's start this video, shall we? Today I'll be talking about a stage I built after the Master Sword was added to the game. I was aiming to build a more traditional course that mixes puzzles and platforming, with a focus on using some of the other new parts. So this course is something I broke down before in a sort of live commentary format as a time killer for a relative who had gotten sick and was stuck in bed. That video was made with an old clip though, and when I actually replayed the stage, I noticed a lot of differences. Looking at the course again had me contemplating its design, and the next thing I know I'm literally making this video. I've made a few small videos before, but this quickly became a much larger and more serious project than I was expecting. Anyway, as you may have guessed by the title, this stage is simply named Spiky Balls. I guess I should have known my first serious project would involve me talking about balls. Anyway, I knew I had to preface this and show you the completed level, so that's why you're watching a playthrough of it now. But once it's over, the breakdown will begin. So for now, just sit back and enjoy this relaxing Super Mario 64 tune. Okay, that was the course in its entirety. Now we're going to take a closer look at the different sections of it. So without further delay,
let's go!
Here we have the first screen. So what's going on here? Well, at first glance the stage appears to be impossible because of these blocks here in front of Luigi. However, on the right hand side you'll notice the spiky ball. That will spawn within a couple seconds of the course starting and begin rolling towards Luigi. It will then crash through the ice wall, forcing Luigi to dodge it, which is hinted at and made slightly easier by the inclusion of this small platform here. Directly after this is a similar situation, albeit slightly more dangerous and difficult, due to the smaller platform and the icicle I placed overhead. This short section is designed to be an introduction to the core mechanic of the course, teaching the player that these balls can break ice walls, as well as introducing the icicles, which are an important supporting element, and used heavily for decoration, as I wanted this course to feel like a cold, frozen cave. The next introductory section shows a couple more things we can expect, such as item blocks, another spiky ball in this pipe, and a Goombrat here on the right. If you don't know what a Goombrat is, they're basically just Goombas that won't walk off ledges. When we enter this section, we notice the spike ball falls and knocks the Goombrat out before rolling down the slope and opening the question mark block, giving us a mushroom. you'll notice that the danger to the player is minimal. Up next is the first ball chase challenge. After the previous section, Luigi finds himself on a fairly small platform with an ominous pipe and a few blocks looming above it. By now, I hope you know what this pipe's gonna spawn. Yep, you guessed it, balls. At this point, you can choose to race forward across the ice for a speedrun challenge, or if you can dodge the ball and hit the blocks, you will find some coins and a vine that leads to a hidden one-up. The blue platforms below the ice always ensure the player has a second chance here. It helps introduce the idea of the ball chase sequences without punishing the player too severely for being slow the first time. Here we have the first real difficulty spike, as this jump is very tight and it's quite easy to get hit by the spike ball here without some careful timing. Originally there was just a pit here, but I added these falling icicles to make this jump more forgiving. Past this pit is the course's first real puzzle. When you enter this area, the blue pipe sends a ball rolling down this slope, crashing through the ice wall as usual. Immediately following this are a pair of springs under an arrow sign, critical hint for solving the puzzles in this course. So, as the ball continues to travel, it rolls over this mushroom and finally lands here next to the seemingly random arrow sign. Above is a blue pipe that drops a spring onto this platform, which is guarded by a single Goombrat. Thus, to solve the puzzle, Luigi here will have to figure out what that arrow sign means. Well, if you remember that hint I mentioned a moment ago, that's what it was hinting at. So, Luigi grabs the spring and places it near the second arrow. So the next time the ball rolls through, it will bounce and break this elevated ice wall. Now I know this puzzle may seem really simple at first, but remember, we're still introducing mechanics here. The focus here is less on the puzzle itself and more on, again, educating the player about how these types of puzzles will work in the later sections. Immediately following this section, we find ourselves in this room. As usual, the red pipe above will spawn a ball as Luigi enters the area. Over here we have a blaster stacked on top of some Goombas, who all live on top of this on-off switch. Hitting the switch will kill the Goombas, dropping the blaster down, thus clearing the path for the spike ball. Now, this section is actually where I ran into my first major problem. Originally, the stage's puzzles were intended to be closed systems. Each room provided the player with a spring to solve its respective puzzle. Well, at first I didn't think this was a problem. However, in later testing, I found that a spring could be brought from the previous room and used to skip finding the spring in the other rooms. First I tried to fix this by making it impossible to go back and get the spring, but it didn't really help, because it was pretty simple to just grab the spring after the bounce and then walk past the one-way wall. So, finally I decided that instead of trying to prevent the player from going back for springs, that I would only provide one spring so the player was required to bring it with them. The next section still had a small issue concerning this. The way it was originally designed, the player could still bring their spring with them to the final puzzle, meaning they could skip finding the spring in that section, which was unacceptable. I simply made this jump here impossible without using and, by extension, leaving the spring behind. And with that, we reach the end. Wait. Oh. Fuck, I'm in the wrong place. Next up is the second chase sequence, which starts when this blaster on the left launches its balls towards the ice. Luigi has a very short time to complete this platforming section before the ice floor is destroyed, revealing the spike traps below. If you miss a jump, you're almost guaranteed to take a hit. However, the strategically placed Goombrats can be bounced on for a quick second chance, and they can actually be utilized to speedrun this section. While it's more difficult to complete than the first chase, it should be pretty easy even for less skilled players, especially if they have the extra hit that a mushroom provides. At the end, we have a blaster spitting coins everywhere. Eventually, the ball will shatter the ice under this blaster, at which point Luigi must write it down, in order to gain access to the next room. Okay, in this room I challenged myself to change the puzzle some. Try to flip it on its head a little bit. See, in this section, you run into the exit first, but it's blocked by ice as usual. Then you notice the familiar ball blaster to the right, just waiting for Luigi to step in front of it. Even I still get trolled by that thing, so I put this mushroom platform here and an item block to hopefully prevent this trolling, or at least mitigate it some by providing this distraction. This also gives the player a chance to see how the ball behaves before moving on. At first glance it seems impossible to open the pipe, but by now you should know what that arrow pointing down means. But where's the spring? Well, the first hint is this little hole in the ceiling above the ice. I wanted it on screen so the player might think, I wonder if anything's up there, and try to find a way. That's when they will inevitably find the exit on the right, leading up to the timer challenge. Here Luigi has to put his bullet dodging skills to the test, while also dodging another ball as it slowly rolls down the slopes. And if Luigi's bullet dodging skills hold true, eventually it will hit bottom and crash through this ice on the left. This reveals a path to a spring conveniently located directly above that little hole we saw in the ceiling earlier. So, ice breaks, spring drops down, and voila, we have the key to unlock the exit pipe. Once that puzzle is solved, Luigi finds himself standing on these blocks, and most likely immediately notices the anxiety-inducing pipe on the left, and already knows what he's got to do. Arrows pointing right reinforce the notion that Luigi needs to get moving, or that floor is going to disappear. Other than that, this section shows no mercy. Floors are smaller, there are platforms made of horizontal springs, which will send Luigi bouncing in the opposite direction. And I even threw in some goon brats to get in his way. This section here, with the two spring moles in particular, gave me some trouble just completing it. I felt making this part the most difficult was important since the final room is located directly past this challenge. The final challenge is another spin on the ball chase we're familiar with by now, though I intentionally made this one slower and more relaxed than the previous chases. It feels like a nice cool down from the hectic chase we just finished and serves as a sort of goodbye to the stage while still providing a unique twist on the same type of challenge. And with that we reach the end of Spiky Balls the stage. So what are my thoughts on the stage? Well, good news is I think it turned out pretty good. The theme and core mechanics worked well together despite the oscillation between puzzles and platforming. My only real complaint about the course is that the difficulty curve is a little wonky, but of course, every person is going to have their own idea of what is and isn't difficult. Alright, so that about does it. But before I go, I have to thank my nephew and my little brother for encouraging and inspiring me to do this. I also have to thank Nintendo for making this amazing game. Man, it's a strange feeling to have completed my first video. I've been wanting to do this for like 8 or 9 years now. So, it really feels like the end of a long wait. At the same time though, I know that it's really only the beginning. It's bittersweet in a way. But I digress. At the culmination of this video, I find myself actually looking forward to the future, which I don't do so often. So I hope I'm able to keep this up. But with all that said, I think I'll end it here. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, take it easy.